Are you talking to students or in your office hour?
I am in my office. I'm doing like a live stream because Zoom's not working.
Oh. We can see you.
Stream because Zoom's not working. That's weird. No, but no one's here.
When you're done, can you call it? Let me see it. Let me see.
Oh, I have people here. Hello, if you're just joining us, I'm just doing an office hour here. I'm brainstorming, journaling, and if you want to leave a comment and ask a question, say hello, you're free to do so. I'm doing this office hour on YouTube because Zoom on Canvas doesn't seem to be working. I'm guessing it's overwhelmed. Oh, it's Bethany. Hi, Bethany. Bethany is an excellent writer friend. Again, Bethany, congratulations on winning first prize. I still haven't read your story yet, but I'm excited to do so. Once the semester gets underway, I'll be doing that. And what are you working on now, Bethany? Let's see, I have to invite the rest of my students. Just a second. Forgot to post this to my creative writing class as well, so I'm doing that now. Still getting used to the finer points of Canvas. Let's see. Almost done. Okay. Oh, hello out there. If anybody's joining us, if you have a question, feel free to ask me. My name is Wade Bradford, and I'm journaling right now, doing a live stream office hour because Zoom's not working. So this is the best I could come up with. Hi out there. If there's anybody watching, this is my office hour. If you have any questions about writing, about English classes, feel free to type in a comment, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I'm new to the world of Zoom, so this is the first time I've ever conducted an office hour online, so I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to do. So normally what I do in my office is I read or I grade papers. It's the start of the semester, so I don't have any papers to grade. So if you're out there watching and you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you want to just hang out, turn on some music or something, feel free to just hang out. I'm reading Stillness is the Key, recommended by my wife, who reads really philosophical, cool stuff. It's right now. The book's talking about the Socratic Method. If you are familiar with the Socratic Method, or if you're not familiar with the Socratic Method, it's basically the idea that you ask a series of questions, and those questions can lead to certain truths. I like the Socratic Method a lot, and I use it in my classroom. Nope. Oh, also, if you're watching, if you look out my window, you'll notice that right now I'm in Washington State instead of down in California where it's very hot. Oh, somebody's saying hello. Cool. Let's see. Who else is communicating. Mind Labs, right? And says, hi, I was wondering if you need to quote from a book and then need to write a reflection on that quote. What methods would you recommend to find those perfect quotes that would relate? That's an excellent question. All right, Ryan, I hope you're still watching. I'll try my best to answer that. So if, let's see, when you are quoting from a book, the best strategy, as you use the word reflection, and I often use the word follow-up commentary. So when you're quoting from a book, an article, a poem, whatever you're quoting from, if we're talking about writing an essay, it's best to have context. So what I mean by context is that if I'm just writing a quote, right now I just have a quote right here. I've got my own words, blah, 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 blah. I've got my words, I got a quote, and then I just continue on ignoring that quote. That's not a good way to write an essay. It's not a good way to include material in an essay. So it's always best to respond directly to the quote that you present. And there are different ways of reflecting on it. A good thing to do in research papers is if you quote something that's complicated material, then give us a quote that explains it. For example, for me, I like reading about science stuff, but I'm not very scientific. So when I'm reading something that is about astronomy, about galaxies and things like that, I need to have it explained, maybe in metaphoric language, in simple language. I need a way of thinking about the scientific stuff. So if you quote from something that's scientific, then explain it to the people that might not understand that quote. If you're quoting something that's very psychological, water it down for the rest of us. So that's one good way to reflect on it. Another way to reflect on it is to add your own opinion and advice. What's the next part? Let's see. What methods would you recommend to find those perfect quotes that would relate? There's a lot of different ways of doing that. With our class, when we start off, we're responding directly to articles. So we read an article and we write an essay about that. So the article's already there. But at the end of the semester, when you're writing a research paper, it's really up to you to find the good material. So I say, my recommendation is that you're finding material that you trust and you feel that other people are going to trust, that it's a reliable source. But you can also find things, if you're writing something in an argument, you can find things that you trust, and for an argument, you can find things that you distrust. So that's a great question, Ryan. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. Kayla says, hello. If you're still watching, Kayla, hello. It's nice to meet you. I hope you have a great semester here in English 1A. Let's see. That's okay. I make the wrong right choice all the time. Let's see. Oh, it's Hookless. Hey, how's it going? Hey, Wade, recently I've been having writer's block on scripts for some commentary review type videos. Do you have any tips on getting in the groove of writing? Yes, so writer's block. Let's see, for commentary review type videos. Okay, that's interesting. I'd love to know what you're reviewing. That would help me answer your question. Let's see. I think in general with writer's block happens for me and for many others when we feel like our words aren't good enough. We're not being brilliant enough on the page. And so a lot of times I'll use my journal to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So a lot of times when we're writing something, we feel like, oh, this needs to be so brilliant. This needs to be the best thing ever put on the page. And when we have those high expectations for ourselves, when we're trying to be perfect, it's not going to happen. And so you need to really give yourself permission to write garbage. Give yourself permission to write crap, because it's the first draft, so it's going to be crap. When you give yourself permission to just write whatever's off the top of your head, even if it doesn't sound poetic or eloquent or really intelligent or as brilliant as you want to be, that helps to unlock things. That takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off of you. Right now, I'm writing a book. I'm writing a children's story that I'm having a lot of fun with, but I know that I'm not doing a very good. The words aren't as brilliant and the plot twists aren't as brilliant as I want them to be. And so sometimes I feel like, maybe I should just stop working, put it down. There's part of my brain that's the writer's block kind of brain that's saying, just stop working on this right now. But it's important for me to keep working on it. So I've been trying to write at least a little bit each day, even though I think a lot of it's not very good. I'm going to have to take a lot of it out in the second draft. But revising is typically an easier process for many people than creating the content. So it's important, Mr. Hookless, and it's important for you to keep creating the content. Give yourself permission to write a crappy first draft, and that will help get rid of any kind of writer's block. Now, if it's the idea, if you are just stuck on what kind of idea to write, if it's not about writer's block happens when it's like, I know what I want to write, but I'm stopped. I know I want to write a book, or I want to write an essay, or I want to write about cowboys, idiots, whatever. So what, if you are stuck on your, on what topic to write about, then you're really waiting for inspiration. And in that case, actually, the book that I'm reading right now, Stillness is the Key, is kind of about just kind of quieting yourself and being able to wait for inspiration. That's a very good thing to do. So be patient if you're waiting for ideas. Be patient, but also be receptive. Like be open. Be looking around. Be looking for stories, looking for ideas, looking for things to respond to, and then if you're open to it, something's going to happen pretty soon that will inspire you. So thanks very much. It's good to hear from you guys. All right. I guess I'll go back to reading for a bit. But if you're just joining us, and if you have any questions, or if you want to say hello, you may do so. I'll go back to my book. Another comment. Thank you. I'm working on a review for a video game, trying to add some skits in there. I'm not entirely sure what the genre is, if I'm being honest here. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm guessing then you got the review of the video game and you do cutaways of funny things. That's good, yeah. The thing with comedy is that, again, you give yourself permission to fail, and that's part of the fun of comedy. And not everything that you make is going to be funny to everyone, or maybe not even funny to yourself. So I'm interested to see what you come up with for your video game skits. Have you read Athen's script? Athen has a script that he's been working on. I still need to get around to reading it, but I think it's like 30 pages long, so that's pretty impressive. Also, with the interesting thing about filming things and about skits and about the process of writing is that writing doesn't have to be when we say writing, we're also talking about storytelling. And so with storytelling, not everything needs to be written down. That part of acting or making skits or videos, you can have you can have different ideas jotted down. It doesn't have to be fully written down. There are a lot of people that improvise most of the stuff they do on television or in skits and things like that. So that's still storytelling, and I think of improvised storytelling as writing, but it's just writing off the cuff, and that's good to do because it sort of frees you, so that you don't have to feel like you have to be writing something on the page, and that you have to be brilliant, on the page in order to be brilliant in a skit. So play around with the medium of filming things and not necessarily having to have everything planned out is good. Oh, it's pretty good. Oh, so it's going to be a series. Interesting, cool. How is the Hookless website going, or not the website, but the YouTube channel going? I know you get more views than me. How many subscribers do you guys have now? I'm having iced tea problems today. The straw is not going in all the way, and this cup was leaking. I fixed that. My wife's not amused with it. I am curious if you happen to be watching and you are from one of my classes. I'm curious if this is your first semester of college, and if you're not in my classes, I'm curious if you're currently in school. What grade have you guys started? Are you online, or are you in the classroom? I'm curious about those things. I'm curious about what's going on in the world of education right now, because it's a very strange time in the world of college and just school in general. So I'm going to go back to my banner. says, hi, I'm a student in your English class this semester. I'm excited to start and look forward to your class. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for stopping by. I'm excited for this semester because I'm doing strange things like live streams and stuff like that. So we're going to be experimenting with a lot of different things on Canvas, and I've never taught an entire semester online, and I've never wanted to because I really like the classroom experience. So I'm going to be trying to do things that give us more kind of one-on-one time, Zoom sessions, virtual office visits, and things like that, because I really want all of my students to have the best possible writing experience. What I'm passionate about is students learning how to communicate effectively on the page, whether we're talking about an actual physical page or on the internet, emails, essays, all those things. So and I teach creative writing, so I really like being creative, not just in the creative writing class, but in the English 1A course as well. So thank you, Miriam. It's nice to meet you virtually. I look forward to your essays. Let's see. Hookla says, I've got 61 subs at the moment. The channel is kind of all over the place at the moment. I'm currently trying to find the right groove in making content, and then hopefully it'll look more organized. In my YouTube channel, which I've been doing for a while, if you are one of my English students and you want to know a little bit more about me, the last year I've been doing more and more YouTube videos. The focus has kind of been talking about creative writing, talking about being an author, that sort of thing. And I've been doing it kind of as an experiment because it's fun to do, but also as a platform for my books. I write children's books. And so it's a good idea if you're a writer in today's society to have a social media presence. And I'm not good at that yet. So I'm trying to get better at that. So kind of like the Hookless channel, my content is very eclectic. If I feel like doing a funny skit, then I film a funny skit. If I feel like having a serious discussion about Martin Luther King Jr.'s essay, Letter from Birmingham Jail, then that's what I do. So you don't know what you're going to get on my channel. I have made about 16 or 17 teacher videos that are going to be embedded. Actually, they're currently embedded on Canvas. And if you're a creative writing student, I have about 15 what I call creative writing experiments that I've done on YouTube, and I will be filtering those through the rest of the semester. And as I need to, I'll be making more videos if I feel like that's a good way to lecture. Let's see. I took classes at Moore Park in high school, but this is my second semester as a full-time student because I graduated halfway through my senior year this year. Congratulations, that's great. You got high school's out of the way. That's awesome. Congratulations. That's not easy to do. I'm interested to find out from high school students what they think of their Moore Park experience. Right now this semester is going to be different, but as they continue on and Moore Park opens up, I'm always interested to find out if the students feel different at Moore Park College, because I want them to feel like I don't want students to feel like Moore Park is the 13th grade. I'm really passionate about being a teacher at community college because I fell in love with education while I was at community college. When I was in high school, there were some great teachers that I had, but most of the time when I was at high school, I was bored and I felt out of place. And I actually graduated my senior year as well, because I was just done. I just wanted to leave. And when I left high school, I didn't plan to go to college. I wanted to just write full time, and I didn't think I needed to go to college to become a better writer. And so I left high school and didn't go to college until I was about 20, when I started to realize I was working at Disneyland, and I started to realize I'm either just going to work at Disneyland for the rest of my life, or I can go to college and get a degree and maybe do something with my love for creativity and writing. So once I started really taking college classes full time, I realized that college was very different from high school. It's different because you get to make up your own schedule, but it's also different because there's a different vibe or a different relationship that different connections that happen between the class and the instructor. Teachers in college don't always care as much as high school teachers. High school teachers can be, very much disciplinarians. The principal will call you if you're absent. Whereas in high school, in college, your college instructor, if you drop off the class, if you just stop coming to class, they don't really care. That's not to say we don't care about you and your well-being. We certainly do. But we also understand that you have your own life. And if your own life is steering you away from college and education and attending class, that's fine. You're an adult now. So hopefully you will be feeling that throughout your experience. I give my students permission to come and see me if they need help. But if you don't want to seek help, I'm not going to force that on you. And if you want to drop the class, drop the class. So you basically have a lot more independence in college. So that can be an excellent thing that can help you thrive. But for some students, it can be kind of having that much freedom can be overwhelming. So that's why you need to be reliant on yourself and be looking out for your peers and be connecting with your teachers when you feel like doing so. So thanks for connecting with me, Kayla, if I'm saying your name correctly. Rick says, hi, Professor Bradford. That's a neat avatar. Is that a crow? I like crows. Crows are cool. I'm participating in your English 1A MO1 class this semester. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for stopping by. And he has a quick question. It's the next one. Quick question. Your introduction prompted this. Favorite Stephen King novel, favorite Shakespeare play? Oh, thanks for reading and paying attention to the prompts that I was talking about. I did mention that my two favorite authors are Stephen King and William Shakespeare. My favorite Stephen King novel is It. It's a very large novel. It's over 400,000 words. And I received it as a Christmas present when I think I was 15 years old. And at the time, I had not been that much of a reader. I had read I'd read children's literature, things like The Wrinkle in Time. I had tried reading Lord of the Rings, but I don't think I read Lord of the Rings until I was maybe 18. So I wanted to read large works of fiction, but I couldn't get through all the way through the book. I just didn't finish the large books that I started because I got bored with the reading process when I was young, like around 14. But when I got that book, Stephen King's It, and I read the first chapter, and there's a clown, an evil clown in the sewer that grabs a kid, and it was very scary. It was also very imaginative, and I was really hooked with that book. So the first Stephen King book that I ever read was one of the largest ones, It, and that one's still my favorite, even though there's weird parts and it's probably too long. It's the book where I think of where my reading powers came to life. I think of Stephen King and his book, It. And it's certainly the ones out of all the Stephen King ones, it's the one that's scared me the most because I was the youngest, at the youngest age when I was reading it. Other excellent ones, I think another very long one is The Stand. The Stand is excellent. And I really liked, he had a time travel one called 11/22/63 about traveling back in time to try to save Kennedy. That one's a fun read. So that's probably, and then The Shining's good. So those are probably my top four. And my favorite Shakespeare play. Well, it's kind of cliche, but there's a lot to get out of Hamlet. So Hamlet and all of those monologues. Oh, you know what? I'm going to back away from that. Hamlet's excellent, but if I could do this, there's a series, a tetralogy, a 4-part series of plays by Shakespeare, in which he starts off with Richard II, a king that gets basically dethroned, gets usurped, and his place is taken by another play, Henry IV, Part 1, Henry IV, Part 2. And in those ones, we see a young prince named Hal, who is kind of an upstart and he's disobedient. And then Henry V is the sort of the climax of that. So those, if you put all those 4 plays together, it's called the Henriad. And that, if I can count that as one play, that's my favorite play because it's very epic. So either the Henriad, if you want to count that, or Hamlet. Excellent questions. I talked about that way too long. Riley says, hi, Professor Bradford. I'm in your English MO1 class, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Riley. I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm trying to check out the avatar. Ooh, that's cool. It's a bunny rabbit in it fighting a snake. That's very cool. Good. Well, I'm glad you're looking forward to it. As I was telling other people, I'm very new to teaching online. The first time I taught online was this last semester when COVID took us all out of the classroom. So that was the first time I was kind of forced to teach. But I'm really kind of, even though I'm very new to this, I'm kind of excited about it because there's a lot of great resources that we can use to connect with each other as writers and as critical thinkers and as readers. So I'm hoping to I'm hoping that I can get a lot of students inspired to write, and we're going to have connections with the Writing Center. Some of my students will have an embedded tutor. Not all of my classes, but at least one of my classes will have that. And I'm hoping to have, like, maybe some guest speakers, guest authors, and things like that. And I guess the other thing that's exciting about this is that we don't have to get up in the morning and drive anywhere. And so we're going to have a little bit more time and more energy. We just have to remember to stay focused. So I've tried to make my English MO1A course pretty simple. We're not reading a ton of literature. We don't have that many articles to read. We do have the standard amount of essays to write, but I think that because we're keeping the reading to a minimum, that we're going to have more flexibility, hopefully more energy. And I am going to make a lot of things available. So if students feel like, hey, I want more resources to read, or I'd love to read, more articles in this direction, then I can send links to those students. All right. Thanks, everybody, for participating with all these questions. This has turned out to be kind of fun. I'm going to put this banner up. So if anybody wants to say hello or ask a question, there's a little notification I get on the comments thing. So that pops up. Rick says, I know it's sinful. We're talking about Shakespeare. I know it's sinful for having watched the movie/play first, but I'm familiar with the Richard Henry Quartet. Oh, great. Oh, you watched I want to watch. I have not watched that yet. I really want to watch that. I have heard that it's excellent. By the way, I don't think it's sinful. If we're talking about Shakespeare, it's not sinful to watch the play or to watch a film version first. In fact, if you can watch a live play of Shakespeare before reading to it, that's a great introduction. The first play that I saw live of Shakespeare was The Tempest, and ironically, that's apparently the last play that he wrote. And so I saw The Tempest when I was about 13 years old, and it was a really good production. It was at the Seattle Repertory Theater, and the stage was covered in sand because it takes place on an island. So stage was just sand. It starts off with like a ladder being raised, and a young man, the boatswain character, is on top of the ladder swaying back and forth. So it's very dramatic and very intense. But while the characters are talking, I'm 13 years old, I'm listening to the Shakespearean dialogue. I have no idea what the characters are saying or what it means. And so the first 10 minutes, I'm sitting there going like, wow, this is fascinating. I don't know what's going on. But about 15 minutes into it, I started to really kind of understand at least the gist of what was being said back and forth. And of course, if you've studied Shakespeare, then you know it's entrenched with metaphor and obscure references and words that we don't use anymore, very old-fashioned words for the most part. But at the same time, there's enough truth to Shakespeare that when you watch it the first time, if the actors are excellent, you will know what's going on, and your brain starts to do something so that you start to understand a lot of the words and the references and the these and the thous and the doth and those kind of antiquated terms. So it's fun to absorb Shakespeare that way for the first time. And then, of course, after you watch the play where you go like, I don't know everything that was said, to go back and read it and look up some of the words and things like that. So Shakespeare, they've actually done some studies about Shakespeare, and there's things that happen in your brain waves, that your brain is excited. It's kind of being tickled because it's experiencing these new words, new ideas, new ways of communicating. So it's always good to expose yourself to new things. Something to say. Hello, Professor Bradford. I'm Frida Candido. I'm presently waitlisted and hopeful for your creative writing course. Do you have a favorite nonfiction genre and or author? Well, hello there. Good. You're waitlisted. Well, you're definitely going to get an ad code, and I will have to make a note. I'm glad you're stopping by. Frida, if you're still on and you want to leave another comment, I'd love to know if you have access to Canvas yet. And if you don't, then I'm going to send you a syllabus for the creative writing class. If you are on, anybody out there, if you're on a wait list, I'm going to add all 5 waitlist students in any of my courses, and I will be sending you an ad code in a week. So by next Monday, we should have ad codes. So make sure you're sending emails. Saying yes. Okay, good. Let's see. What was the question? Do you have any favorite nonfiction genre and or author? Well, I'm currently reading Stillness is the Key. This is kind of cool. Let's see, but I don't know that it's my favorite nonfiction genre. This is kind of weird, but right now, my favorite sort of nonfiction genre, I like reference books, informational textbooks, encyclopedias, Wikipedia when it's a reliable source. I like reading sort of short, objective information that's just giving me the facts on material. And that's not a very literary answer, because I could have said, oh, I love biographies, or I love, philosophical textbooks and things like that. But at this point, because I like to learn about so many things, I'm always excited when there's a Wikipedia page, or when there's a cool, book or textbook or something like that. And it's just giving me sort of like a simple explanation of a concept. And then if I want to learn more about it, I can look at the references page and find out, okay, if I want to dig deep into this, what should I read about? As far as authors go of the nonfiction genre, I've been trying to get into more of Mary Roach. Mary Roach has a very creative way of approaching nonfiction, and she wrote Packing for Mars, about like what astronauts need to do and what life would be like living on Mars and things like that, and a book called Stiff. And I've only read like chapters and excerpts of these, so I haven't read all of them. But Stiff is about the mortuary business, the morgue business, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of creepy yet fascinating things. So I like that kind of material. I also love, and will be my English 1A class, we're going to be listening to podcasts. I love a podcast that's called Radio Lab, and basically anything from NPR. Even though this is audio and not a text, I love the podcast that you can listen to on NPR or things like that. Let's see. I do have access, and I can see what you have published thus far. Much appreciated. Oh, well, that's good to know. I didn't know if the waitlist students could, because I don't know if I see your name on there, so I will check. See if I can see you on there. Good. I'm glad you have access there. If you are a creative writing student, you may notice that there's not very much that's published online. my English 1A student, I've got like 17 modules, one module for each week, all these different posts and things like that. But creative writing, a couple things are going to happen. We're going to have a Zoom class in the very near future. Tomorrow is our first Zoom class. That's assuming that Zoom works tomorrow. I hope that it does. And what else? Oh, that's right. And we have a questionnaire. So the creative writing class is filling out a questionnaire. It's like just 6 or 7 questions. I'm interested in finding out what students like to write, what kind of genres they like to write, what authors they are interested in, what kind of goals, creative goals, and even personal goals they have. So I want to know about the students. We will eventually be getting into peer review groups. So students of my creative writing class will be doing some online group work so that they can share their stories amongst a small amount of peers. And then some of the stories, if people feel like it, they might share it with the rest of the class. But that will be optional. Sharing with the entire class is going to be something that's optional because not everybody wants to do that. But I think it's good to at least share it with 4 or 5 other students so that you can get feedback from your peers. Oh, all right. Miriam has already read Mary Roach in I read a book by Mary Roach in my AP language class, and I wasn't a fan of the book I read. It was Spook, and I didn't like how she approached it. I'm not familiar with that title. I'm gonna Google that. Oh, Science Tackles the Afterlife. Okay. So it's talking about like ghosts and things like that? Well, one of the good things about having a contrary opinion, at least in my class, is that if you read a book, if you're reading a textbook or a book, nonfiction or fiction, if you read that and you admire the book, you love the book, you can write about what is great about the book. But it's just as interesting, if not more compelling, to read a book and say, hey, you know what? I don't agree with this, or there's problems with this book, or there are fallacies, there are flaws in the logic of this book. And that's a great thing to do in an essay. So Miriam, I'd love to know if you, when you were responding to it, assuming you had to write an essay about it, was it, even though you didn't like the book, were you proud of, did you write a critique of it? Did you get critical about the book? And did that turn out to be a good essay? I know some teachers I've had in the past when I was a college student, if the teacher loved the play or the poem or the book that they were assigning, and if you didn't, and if you expressed criticism about the book, about the author, about the writing style or whatever, some of my teachers, they would not reward me with a good grade. They might give me a passing grade or a B or something like that, but I could tell they didn't give me an A because I didn't agree with them. But my better teachers were the ones that would write in the notes and say, oh, I disagree with your interpretation of this or your analysis of this, but you still proved your points very well. You've done a good argument, you're being logical. So even though I personally disagree with you, Wade, you still have an A. So of course, those are the teachers that I really liked and respected, and I try to do that as well. So anything that we use in class, if you love it, great. Tell me what's to love. But if you hate it, great. Tell me what you hate about it. Let's see. Oh, one of my AuthorTube friends says hello. Well, hello, Dal Cecil. Runo, if I'm saying your name correctly. Right on time for Ghosts and Afterlife. That's right. Yes. One of my questions that I asked my class, because sometimes we do like what we call standing debates. And so one of the interesting conversations we had was whether or not ghosts exist. And of course, in an English class, you can pick any subject to write about. Some subjects are better than others. And that was very interesting to find out what students thought of. Like, I wouldn't want to get into a religious conversation, and I guess ghosts can kind of fringe upon that. But just having the words "ghost exist" on the board. What I would do with standing debates is on the board, I write a sentence or a phrase. So the one that I usually do for standing debates is I will write the sentence, spanking is an effective and appropriate way to discipline a child. And then I tell my students, hey, if you agree with this, go to this side of the room. And if you disagree, go to that side of the room. And the class splits up, usually 50-50 in the case of that one. And then they debate. They come up with their ideas as to why they are on the disagree side or why they are on the agree side. And when I put ghosts exist, I was kind of surprised because the majority of the class, they went to the agree side. And there was only like maybe 5 or 6 students that were on the disagree side. And they had a lot of ideas what ghosts were and things like that. So that was a very fun conversation. The fun thing about English class is that you never know what we're going to end up talking about. But of course, the goal that I try to do, because if we talk about something that's, in that case, related to the supernatural, or if we're talking about something that's political, I want all my students to know that you can have all sorts of opinions, and I'm going to be respectful of those opinions, as long as we're not getting into the land of extreme fallacies, as in rash generalization, which is like a form of bigotry or prejudice. There's all sorts of ideas that are welcome in the classroom. At the same time, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm going to indoctrinate them with my own belief system, because I'm always attempting to keeping my bias out of the classroom. That's really ultimately impossible to do, but I strive to keep my opinions out of the classroom, because my job is to get students to strengthen and develop their opinions. And so even if I meet a student who is on sort of a different wavelength than I am, going in a different sort of philosophical direction, I think that I'm objective enough that even though I might be thinking like, well, that's not exactly the direction I would take my line of thinking. Instead of thinking like that, I'm thinking like, okay, well, this student has a belief system, and what can I do to help that student think critically about his or her belief system and strengthen that belief system? So those are some of my goals that I have. Miriam says, we were in groups when we read it, so we didn't really have to write an essay on it. We just had to discuss it as a group. Okay, yeah. I normally, when we're reading something, that happens as well if it's smaller. A lot of the articles that we will read in my class are going to be things that I will discuss that I use as a launching point, and things that can be models for other essays. And we'll have discussions. I guess the discussions are graded, so technically that's an assignment. But what we will be doing eventually is we'll be looking for certain. So if we read, say, I don't know, like 20 different essays or 20 different articles throughout the semester, you're probably just going to be choosing maybe 3 of those to respond to in an actual essay form. So we do read a lot and then cast a wide net, I like to think of it as, and then we'll see what inspires you is what I want you to respond to. And more about Mary Roach, I just found her approach to it a little insensitive to other cultures. Oh, okay. She seemed to have a closed mind when it came to the afterlife. Yeah, so I'm guessing that she was probably, perhaps because of her scientific background, she was probably taking a very skeptical approach to that. Oh, good. And I said it. I said your name right. Excellent. Cool. Yeah, it's interesting, the idea of skepticism, of not believing in things unless you have what's like scientific evidence, right? Or any sort of evidence. That's a very sort of academic way of approaching things in this current era. But what's changing about skepticism is that people are becoming skeptical, not just about, say, supernatural matters, but they're becoming skeptical about scientific matters. So skepticism has crept into places where we thought or at least academics kind of thought like, well, we've proven this is right. But an extreme example is the Flat Earth Society. And I apologize if you're on the Flat Earth Society. I welcome you. I welcome you to my class. But the Flat Earth Society, if they are earnest members and they're not just doing it, they're not just being a part of it for fun, that they are skeptical about the scientific claim that the Earth is round. And no matter how much scientific information you present to them, they still have this level of disbelief, of distrust. So skepticism is interesting because I think the idea of it is meant to be a process of thinking where it's like, okay, I'm only going to believe things that I have evidence. But then if you become more and more skeptical, you are going to distrust any sort of evidence. So ultimately, you have to have what I think of as faith in something, so that you can believe in something. So you kind of need to have faith. And when I say faith, I'm talking about like a trust, right? You have to have a sense of trust for the scientists or the writers or the politicians or the philosophers, or like whoever it is, whatever the information is, you have to develop a sense of trust. So these are the conversations that I like to have in my classroom. I like finding out how students to react to these kind of things. It's basically what, although I've been rambling for a while, that rambling is what I think of as critical thinking. Critical thinking is the process of trying to analyze how things work, why things work that way, looking for different paths towards truth, trying to determine what the best path is for you. And in a nutshell, that's what I think of as critical thinking. Have you noticed there's an old telephone here? This is, Mom, where did you get this telephone? I'm at my mom's house in Washington State. Oh, okay. Did it ever work?
Yes, it's got working parts in it.
Oh. I feel like
we could, yeah, but there's no switchboard operators anymore.
I feel like, since we were talking about ghosts, I feel like getting on that antique phone, seeing if there's any ghosts, making a ghost call.
Yeah, it's extremely heavy because all the insides are still in there.
I'm going to freak out right now. So, nope, no ghosts. I'll try it again at midnight tonight and see. Let's see what happens. Let's see. I think since there are still people online and watching, and we don't have any comments, right? Oh, we got 2 comments. Actually, I'll take the comments, but first, assuming that the Wi-Fi works, try not to show off my family members. I'm currently in Washington State because I can be right now, since I'm distance learning. I took my daughter up to her university, so this is my home state of Washington. I will occasionally have other videos that are filmed here for my lecture. They're building something down there. So that's this is, if you can see it okay, this is the Pacific Northwest. That's the Puget Sound out there, and this is not the it's not the home that I grew up in, but it's the house that my parents have lived in since the early 90s. So even though it's not my childhood home, it evokes a lot of youthful memories. So I really I love so you can see out there. I just love the green of Washington State, and to be honest, I'm excited that I'm away from Southern California because I heard it was 111 degrees in my town down there. Let's see. I am a pagan with atheist tendencies. That's cool, but I have some trust that there must be something else out there, whatever that something may be. Oh, that's cool. Well, like I said, I'm like really, I think, open-minded maybe to a fault, because I like hearing about everybody's ideas, whether we're talking about, politics or philosophy or religion or spirituality or the nature of the universe. I like hearing about everybody's ideas and then I'm often left feeling like, well, I don't know what, I very often I don't zero in on any one belief system. So I go back and forth because I just get excited about learning about the different beliefs. And maybe the good thing about that is that then I'm not usually very judgmental about people's beliefs. Again, unless we're talking about like extreme, prejudice and things like that. So if we're talking about the Nazis or something like that, I'm not going to say, tell me more about your idea, right? So I do draw a line in the sand of what I think, counts as evil or wrong-mindedness. But I love hearing about, in general, I love hearing about people's ideas. And it's really cool that you are pagan with atheist tendencies. Faith is just believing in what you cannot see. Very important to have in something. I like that quote a lot. That actually is very similar to there's a Mark Twain quote that's like that, but it's faith is believing in what ain't so. But that's his playful way of saying that faith is just believing in something that you cannot see. And Dahl says, I cannot see many things, but then again, I'm almost blind. So, and then we got the emoticon. Yeah. If you are new to the YouTube community, I'm part of AuthorTube, and Dahl is a member of AuthorTube, and so she sometimes discusses how she her writing process. And also, Dahl, you've talked about some of your dreams, if I remember, from your YouTube channel. And so that's very fascinating for us who have, currently at least, we have our sight. I have to, every year my prescription gets worse and worse. So hopefully I will have my sight for a while, but things certainly have gotten blurry over the years. But I think that's fascinating. One of the things that I love about YouTube or AuthorTube is that we get to learn the different perspectives of people and what they go through, how they experience the world. So your channel is great, and I need to visit your author live write-ins. Let me say something about that in case you're watching the AuthorTube community. If you go to YouTube and you just Google AuthorTube, or you go to the search engine and type in AuthorTube, what you probably find is a lot of different writers. Most of them are much younger than myself and much more energetic. And a lot of them talk about the writing process. Their main goal, I think, is getting, creative writing accomplished, novels and books and stories and things like that. And the aspect of AuthorTube that is exciting, but I don't partake in it as much, is that they will have these live write-in sessions where 3 or 4 writers will get together, and they'll just be typing on their computer for about a 15 to 20 minute sprint, and then they'll stop and they'll talk, or they'll listen to music, or they'll chat and share ideas. And that seems to be really inspiring for a lot of writers. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of resources like that for students, where it doesn't have to be AuthorTube, but where students can kind of connect with others online, just so you can be, especially in this day and age of COVID, so you can kind of still be connected with people in virtual study groups is something that might be good to try. Kayla says, ah, ha, 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 ha. And let's see. It looks nice from what I can see. Are you near the ocean? I'm near the water. It's kind of the ocean. We call it the Puget Sound. If you're familiar with the San Juan Islands, are these islands in between like Seattle and the Olympics. And so it's the sound is basically like the ocean has crawled across the peninsula, around the peninsula, and that's what we call it. I guess we don't call it the ocean because we don't have waves. There's no surf in the Puget Sound. The waves are about as tall as my hand right here, and the beaches are kind of crappy. It's usually just rocks. You can't go down the sound and make a sand castle in most places. And oh yes, how a blind person sees in dreams. Yeah, that's what your video was about. That was awesome. Oh, and we've got a fantasy fiction writer, Mr. Vlandis, if I'm saying that. I hope your world building's going well. I need to tune into your channel more often, Mr. Vlandis. I'd love to, if you want to leave a comment, I'd love to know what you are working on right now. I have a fantasy novel for children, a middle grade novel that is, my agent has sent it out to publishers. And so I have my fingers crossed. So by the end of this college semester, we should know if I've sold that book or not. If you are new to me and my channel, I write children's books. So I write picture books. And I have 4 picture books published. There are 2 that are coming out in 2021. And I write a lot of plays. Most of those plays are performed by high school students. So plays for teens and some plays for children. And but I have not gotten a novel officially published. I have one book called Camp Oh My Gosh, but that was published kind of like a self-publishing sort of thing with the help of a friend. So I'm really hoping that I continue my author adventures. Let's see. I've never been to the States, so that is new info. Thank you. I will look up the geography of Seattle. Yeah, look up the San Juan Islands, and if you can find information about that, they're really pretty islands. They're filled with evergreen trees. Some of them have bridges to get across to, and others are. You can only get by ferry boat. They have a lot of ferry boat transportation, and some of them are small enough that you would have to take like a sailboat or a motorboat to. So some are very remote, some are very well traveled. All of the San Juan Islands are beautiful. The island that we're on right now is called Camano Island, but I have a problem with that because I don't really think it's an island. I think it's a peninsula. If you look it on Google Maps, Camano Island. It's really kind of land. There's a ditch of water that's what makes it an island. This office hours turned into quite a lively conversation, so I'm very, very excited that people have been talking to me. Yes, I have an agent. Yeah, I was very lucky. If there's anyone out there that is interested in writing literature, books or stories or plays for children, or for teens, young adults, I recommend that you check out the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, or it's also known as SCBWI. And this is an international organization, so Dao Cecil Runo. Wherever you are in the world, there's going to be different groups that you can connect with if you want to write children's books or books for young adult readers. And it's because of that organization that I started to make contacts with people in the publishing world. I met fellow authors that were unpublished, but I met a lot of authors that were published. So I started becoming involved with this group, I think in like 2006. I started going to the conferences, and it really changed my professional life. It helped a great deal. So whatever kind of writing that you do, if it's not children's books, if you write, say, mysteries, or if you write high fantasy, there's a good chance that there are similar groups. And so I encourage you to connect with others. Writing is a very solitary life, or it can be, but if you want to succeed in traditional publishing, you have to push yourself and you have to get out there. I don't really like that because I like being kind of like a hermit. I do like being introverted at times. And so it really, doing things like this streaming video, even though I think I've been doing okay at it, this is stuff that's not in my comfort zone. So having a social media presence, putting yourself out there, going out and networking, all of that is not in my comfort zone. But we should try to do it anyway. Mr. Vlada says, I'm currently writing several new stories, but my major, this is a giveaway from Instagram. Oh, cool. Good. Yeah, I'm working on a book that's much shorter than the fantasy adventure novel that I wrote. The fantasy adventure novel, the middle grade novel, was about 550 pages. So hopefully it will be split into 2 books part 1, part 2. It would be awesome, but we'll see what happens. And then the book I'm working on now is going to be much smaller. It's going to probably be about maybe 40 or 50,000 words, but it's taking me a long time to write this. I'm writing it very, very slow and semi-steady. My cousin recently moved to Seattle. Oh, that's excellent. Seattle is a beautiful city. It's very expensive right now because they have so many industries. They had Microsoft, and then that made it go up, and then Amazon and other things like that. I write adult. I will have to try and write some more children and YA. The thing about YA is that YA stories, young adult novels, can actually be very intense. They can be very dramatic. They can be very, very, for lack of a better word, mature. As long as the main characters are 16, 17, maybe 18 years old, it can count as YA literature. So it depends on what kind of story you want to tell. I can't remember is there a particular genre that you like to write? I'd like to know. Way too shy. Yeah, the weird thing about me is that I'm not shy in the sense that I don't mind making a fool of myself, basically. I don't mind being on YouTube. I like doing, when we had theater, I like doing stuff at my local community theater. And I was a drama student in high school. So I like theatrical things. And I don't mind talking in front of people. I have no problem talking in front of my classroom. And it's in social situations where if there's a party going on, if I'm at a party, I'm not having a good time. I want to find out, is there a dog in the house that I can pet? Do you have a cat that I can just sit with while everybody is socializing? So I'm not really good at the sort of the small talk kind of party atmosphere where it's like really noisy, and I don't like that. So I think I didn't know this about myself, but apparently part of being introverted is whether or not you are replenished in what's the deal, Sherry, about introverts?
You recharge on your own.
Recharge, that's right. So introverts apparently recharge when they are on their own, and their energy is depleted when they are in social environments, and that's the way it is for me. When I'm on my own, my energy goes up. I can work on a lot of creative things, and I feel really inspired. But if somebody says, "Hey, we're going to be visiting people all day long," then I'm like, ugh. Let's see. Let's see. We got another comment from Dal. That's the time. I am not very dramatic. I play more on the subtle side of things, so it's just not my style. I write you write sci-fi. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So if you write science fiction, I'm going to do a note to myself and I'll look this up because I'd kind of like to find this out as well. So I mentioned the society that I belong to, the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. There's got to be several societies. Maybe you already know, Doll. There's got to be several societies for writers of science fiction because, oh man, we who love science fiction, that's me. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. So there are lots of organizations for the fans. I'm assuming there's lots for the writers, and it'd be interesting to find out what kind of groups you could connect with. It does take a long time to write a well-detailed world in fantasy. For me, it has taken me 20 years to build my fantasy world to what it is now, but it does not stop. Fantasy is a great genre to write. Yeah, world building is fun. I find that, and I'm really, even though I've loved fantasy and I've written in fantasy off and on for a long time, I do feel like I'm new. I've written about 5 novels that are unpublished, and 2 of them would fit into the fantasy genre. So really, I'm still new to writing fantasy, and I like the world building aspect that you get to sort of create your own rules to how not just the society works, but you can make new physics, right? Because you get to decide what floats. Do the mountains float? Do people live in the clouds? You get to make up your own rules. Exactly. After socializing, I need to go on my own to recharge. That's exactly how I am. That's the thing. Okay. Your typos are forgiven. I have a friend who wants to be a published author one day. Do you have any advice that I can pass on to her? Yes. I mean, you could go into a lot of different advice about publishing, but the main thing that I would say is if you want to be a published author, you probably want to go in with a very long-term mindset. I think a lot of people, they might approach it where it's like, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to get that book published. And the first book that they write might be excellent, right? It could be a masterpiece. But there's also a very good chance that the first book they write is not going to be very good. And they might be in love with it, but other eyes looking at it, agents and editors, publishers, they might not see it as excellent or valuable or good or marketable. So don't expect to hit a home run, to use baseball cliche metaphor. Don't expect to hit a home run the first time. Think long-term. Think that you want to, really the goal is not to be a published author, even though that's something that we want to have. The goal is to be a writer that tells stories that people want to read. And so if you can make yourself good enough, then the sales, the publishers, the editors, the agents, they're going to be receptive. So that's what it is. It's just like, I wouldn't say like, oh, I want to be a musician that has a record, because if I'm a bad musician, even if I make it as a record, nobody's going to want to listen to that music. So the goal should be like, oh, I want to become a musician where people love listening to my music. As a writer, you want to become a storyteller. People love listening to your stories. Oh, I got to say hi to Athen. Hi, Athen. Thanks for stopping by. My office hour is almost done. I got 12 more minutes. It's an office hour and a half.
Okay.
My wife loves this. She's having a good time right now. She's like, oh no, my husband's talking about writing for an hour and a half and he's very loud. Let's see. Tell your friend to be, this is good advice, looks like. Tell your friend to be patient. Don't rush the process. I agree, especially traditional publishing. It will take forever. And she will have query agents and all that. Patience is required. It does seem like patience is required. There are exceptions to that. There are times where people, they write something and somebody falls in love with it immediately. Just like the world of Hollywood, it is nice to have connections. So if somebody is really interested in the world of publishing in the traditional way, then they do want to get, first I think they want to work on their writing, make sure their writing is pretty good, at least B+ quality. And but then beyond that, you want to know your market, you want to know the industry, because if you can have contacts, then I think that makes it better for you. I'm still new, so the publishers that I'm reaching out to, or that my agent is reaching out to, I might not have personal connections with a lot of them. And if I did have personal connections, I could say, hey, this is the book I'm working on. Do you think you're gonna like? I could reach out and talk to them. But right now, I'm not in the inside circle. For most, there's a few publishers, or there's a few editors that I could sort of reach out and ask them questions and things like that. But for the most part, I'm still learning. And so yeah, don't rush the process. Patience is definitely required. And Athens says hello. Cool. Well, let's see. We're wrapping things up. Oh, Athen, we've got a personal question for you. Your Aunt Sherry wants to know if you received your birthday card. So leave a comment and let us know that. I've got 10 more minutes of my little office time, and so back to my banner. If you have any questions or if you want to say hello, please do so. Again, it could be about anything you want, but we've mainly been talking about writing stuff, but you can ask whatever question that you want. I want to know if you are either you're a student or a creative writer or whatever you're doing. I always want to know what you're working on. So I'd love to know if you've already started your college classes or high school classes and you've got a writing assignment. I'm always curious what assignments are out there. I'm talking about the students that aren't mine. And if you are a creative writer, I'd love to know what you are working on if you haven't already chimed in. The less commercial your writing is, the more patient you need to be. I say this because I write totally out of trend things with blind protagonists, and yeah, I need patience. Cool. Yeah, so something like that is very true about how commercial, or I use the word marketable, the writing is. And the great thing about the age that we live in is that since we have self-publishing, if you are writing a book that you know is going to be very niche, or you expect it to be very niche, you never know when something's going to blow up in a good way. So if you're writing something that's has a very small market, it's nice knowing that, like, yeah, I can try to get this traditionally published. Great if it sells, and if it doesn't, I can still self-publish it. And you never know what kind of following you are going to get. I do think, and I hope that Dahl and other writers find this, that there's been a movement for own voices. If you might have seen the hashtag, I'll type it out so you know what it is, in case you are new to the world of writing. Here's what it looks like. So hashtag own voices, this has been a movement as well as the need to have diverse books or characters of diversity within books. So editors and publishers right now, they are very interested in the authentic experiences of authors who come from backgrounds or have experiences that do not get read very often. And so something like a blind protagonist, that's something that we don't see that very often. We don't read about blind protagonists. We don't have too many blind protagonists in films. And when we do, at least the few examples I can think of, it seems like the focus is placed upon that person's difference. In the case of a blind protagonist, there's the film, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Wait Until Dark. I thought it was a great movie. It's based off of a play. It's very thrilling. But much of the play is about how, the protagonist is blind. So if people are breaking into her house, she can't see them. So it's focused on, she's blind. She's going to have to listen to clues and how is she going to know who to trust? So things like that. It's a great story, great idea. But at the same time, it's almost using the blindness as sort of a gimmick. And I think with the own voices movement, they are interested in, they're not interested in some author who's just writing. It's like, oh gosh, it'd be interesting to have that disability, or interesting to come from this country. I don't have that disability, or I don't come from that country, but I'm going to write about it. Instead, I think editors want to have the authentic voice now more than ever. And so I think that's great because it gives a lot of underrepresented groups more opportunities. Dahl says, I cannot afford self-publishing, unfortunately, so I'm stuck with traditional. Well, the thing about self-publishing is that anyone can self-publish something, or at least I think, I don't know where you are, if it's different. If you have access to Amazon, you can self-publish something, but it's not going to be read by anybody. So Dahl probably already knows this, that you can self-publish whatever you want for free. But as far as I'm assuming, Doll, you're talking about having the budget to market it yourself, and that takes a lot of time and money. Oh yes, I am an Own Voices author. Very good. Already had one. Oh, yay! Good, good, good. And let's see. Right, that's the thing. That it might be lip service that editors say, like, yes, we want diversity, but the question is it showing up in the bookstores right now? And I don't know. I think things are changing, at least in terms of things like the experiences of different authors of color. I'm hoping are getting more representation, at least and again, I don't know if I'm in a bubble, but it seems like on my Instagram, it's like, the book publishers that I follow, they have a lot of a lot of new authors that I haven't seen before, haven't read before. Bethany says, "Oh, you shared that. Oh my God, Bethany, I can't. I'm going to go and read your story, Bethany. And then we'll talk. Bethany, maybe we need a video about each other's stories and our reaction to it. But I need to read the story, My Brother. Yes, having the budget. That's right. The cover designer. If you don't have a good cover, no matter how good the book is, people are going to judge the book by its cover. I would love for you to look up my stories. If you go to wadebradford.com, you can find out more about my stories. Well, it's almost 11:30. Let's see. How do covers go for my books? Pretty good. Well, my illustrators are incredible. I'm talking about the traditionally published stuff. The one book that I have that was not traditionally, but the book Camp Oh My Gosh that I have, it's in a gray area because I guess it was a small press publication kind of thing. I paid for the cover, and I paid for what editing was done on it, and I paid a little bit for the formatting, but it was all very reasonably priced because a friend of mine was starting her own small press company. That small press was called Skyrocket Press. I'll put a little shout out to Skyrocket Press because I think they currently have a contest going on. Oops. I can't do it. Skyrocket Press, yes. So Skyrocket Press has a contest going on for to publish. They're publishing their first book this year, and the editor / publisher is named Larissa White Reyes, and she started Skyrocket Press because she was writing these great books that some of them were getting traditionally published, but a lot of them weren't. And she felt like, hey, these books are just as good as the ones that I've had traditionally published. Why don't they exist? And so she started Skyrocket Press to kind of help herself out and help out friends. And I was lucky enough to be one of the people that she helped out. And so she kind of guided me through the self-publishing process, but it's on CreateSpace. Anyway, long story short, the cover turned out, I think, pretty cool for Camp Oh My Gosh. It might not be, to be honest, it's not up to professional standards, but I think I paid $300 for it, maybe not even that much, $250 or something like that. And so that it looks, for a $300 cover, I think it looks excellent. And again, if it was professional, maybe there'd be a couple things I'd tweak about, like the face of the ghost, maybe. But other than that, I think it's pretty awesome. Well, it's about time for me to end my office hour. So thank you everyone for joining me. I look forward to Zoom office hours where I don't have to constantly talk and students can just kind of show up. See the Weepster, my siblings have. Oh, that's awesome! Nice. I'm glad they have that, and I think you've read Camp Oh My Gosh, if I'm correct. See the Weepster. So thank you for being one of the readers. I will say goodbye to you, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks very much for stopping by. Goodbye, everybody.